Hey YouTube, how you guys doing today? My beard is gray and my name is Trey. In today's episode of the AWS Cloud Quest series, Solutions Architect Role, right, we're going to be discussing resource governance. And the service that we're going to be using to discuss resource governance is AWS Config. Now, what exactly is AWS Config? AWS Config provides a detailed view of the configuration of AWS resources in your AWS account. This includes how the resources are related to one another and how they were configured in the past so that you can see how the configurations and relationships change over time. This is a very, very powerful tool when it comes to, system administration, right? When you can look at your whole environment, your architectural diagram, and then you can kind of look and see about changes, whether there has been, configuration drift over time, or if anyone has made changes, whether they were authorized or unauthorized, right? So now let's go ahead and get started with our mission today. If you have not done so, please click like on the video, right? Subscribe, make sure that you share it with other people, right? So that we can get the message out to people, to anyone that's interested in starting a career in cloud computing, right? And if this is the first time that you've ever seen this video series, make sure that you go back and check out my other playlist, right? The AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner playlist, right? So you can kind of start from the beginning to see what we've been doing here the entire time. All right, so right now what we're doing, right, is we're meeting with our customer. That's what we do as cloud engineers. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so she says, welcome to the most innovative lab in the city. Thanks for answering the call. Hey, no problem. How can I help you today? All right. As you might be aware, we employ a significant number of bright young minds every year to help us innovate. Sometimes those bright young minds forget to enable versioning or encryption on their buckets. Can you please help identify when systems are non-compliant? Oh no, that doesn't sound good. Fortunately, we have some solutions to this problem. For managing the configurations of your systems, you can use AWS Config. You can get notified as soon as your systems are changed, and you can set up automatic rollbacks, right? So that means roll back to the previous version before a change was made, okay? Wow, that would be great. We need to get on this as soon as possible. Can we also monitor if the correct tag identifiers are not applied to the system? We need every resource tag with key identifiers such as the cost center. Of course, using AWS Config, you can create custom rules based on your specific requirements. You can enforce configurations, including proper resource tagging. This helps you quickly find non-compliant resources. That sounds perfect. I wish we had this solution yesterday. Are you able to help us improve our resource governance policies? I accept, right? We accept because we're doing this together. Fantastic. Let's get on this right away. All right. So now we're going to our next screen, which is the architectural diagram, right? Let me go ahead and, get rid of this so you can see the whole thing. All right, so look. This is our architectural diagram. If this is your first time watching these videos, if you don't know anything about the service, you can come over here, click on the video, and it will give you a brief overview of the existing service that we're going to use today, right? Now, this solution uses AWS Config to access, audit, and evaluate the configurations of your AWS resources, right? So you have a configuration change right here, an event-driven event or a periodic evaluation, right? AWS Config changes. Config history goes to the S3 bucket. Notifications are sent to the simple notification service, which just sends alerts to your phone every time your environment changes, right? So I'm just going to go through this, little diagram, and then we can go ahead and go to our plan today. Now over here, right, we have the practice lab goals. I can come back on screen now. All right, so over here we have the practice lab goals. This is our step-by-step, right? Guided learning. All right, so configure an AWS config manage rule for S3 key management service encryption. That's what KMS is, just a way to harden your system by using security encryption keys, right? And then configure an AWS config manage rule for tagged resources, right? All right. Then in the do-it-yourself section, the DIY, right, we will add an additional rule to verify that your S3 buckets have versioning enabled. S3 bucket versioning enabled. Okay, this is S3-bucket. Remember this, right? And then enable versioning on the S3 bucket config bucket. Okay, got it. So just enable versioning. It's not that difficult, okay? All right, so now let's come over here and get started. So whenever we come to this screen and we load our practice labs, right? First thing we want to do is want to click on Start Labs, because each of these labs take their own time. You never know how long it's going to take to configure these resources, right? And then the next thing we want to do is we want to click on Lab Files to see if we have any downloadable content that we would need to use as a part of this lab. I see right here we have no lab content, so that's great. So we come over here to the steps, and then these are the steps that you will follow step by step, right, in order to complete this lab exercise, right? Then the concept behind this is, in this practice lab, you will configure an AWS Config managed rule for S3 KMS encryption. Configure an AWS Config managed rule for tagged resources. So if you haven't seen any other videos that I've done, I spoke about tagged resources in the past. It's like basically when you are a cloud engineer and you're working in like a large enterprise environment, right? You have thousands of different services running, thousands of objects, thousands of, just different resources, and you need to tag them. So you might tag them and say, hey, these resources, like these 217 resources all belong to the finance department, or these 137 resources all belong to HR. That way you can keep track of them systematically, right? So that's what tags are for, and you will see that as we proceed here in the video. I've mentioned this in other videos while we're waiting for our lab to load. We talk about the correlation between what we do here in these exercises versus what I do as a cloud engineer every day, right? Working for AWS. There is a correlation. You will use some of these services. Now, when it comes to AWS Config, with my job title and my job role, I have never used this service before, right? So this is my first time ever seeing it, going through this lab. But hey, that's what the whole purpose is, right? For you to expose yourself to these cloud services. So I am learning at the same time that you are learning. I'm not ashamed to say that, right? Uncle Trey, hey, I'm very transparent, right? I'm an open book. I will tell you, right? I will never stand here and pretend to be some aficionado, right? Like when you're working in technology, right? You have to learn every single day, right? It's not like, like if you have like a job where you're working, like let's say in a warehouse or something, and it's kind of like, after maybe about a month, right, or a month and a half, you will be as proficient as you need to be in that role. When you work in any type of technical role, that will really never be the case, right? You will have to learn something every single day, and you have to be self-motivated to learn too as well, right? So sometimes that will require you working off, outside of normal office hours, right? You would have to do that to just try to better yourself and better yourself at your craft, right? Where if you look at like, this is the first, like me as a cloud support engineer, right? I came from the military, right? And, this is my first time working in the cloud. So just like how I told you, when you have some of these normal, let's say blue collar type of roles, right? When you have some of these normal blue collar type of roles where it might take 1 month to be proficient or whatever. In these type of roles where you're coming into a brand new environment, you never worked in the cloud, it might take you about a year, right? And that's just like the normal average time. But if you were to apply yourself and work outside of normal business hours and things like that, that year could go from 1 year to about maybe 6-7 months. Just depends on how much work that you do outside of hours. There's a lot of things that you can do to build proficiency in the cloud if you're just getting started, right? So like, the number one thing is practice, right? It's an old saying that says, hey, you need like 10,000 hours of practice to do certain things, right? 10,000 hours is like, that's a lot, man. So, but the more practice you get, the more you will build proficiency. So if you're planning on like transitioning, right, number one thing you can do is build you an AWS free tier account, right? And then you can kind of read some blogs, like while we're waiting for this lab, to be provisioned, right? You can go look at something like, let's say AWS, what would we say, ramp up guides, right? All right, so like AWS ramp up guides. So now this is something that you can do for free, right? So you can come here to this website. You got AWS ramp up guides, right? And you got either get trained, right, where you can look at a certain topic that you've been researching by either looking at YouTube, looking at blogs, looking at people on LinkedIn, like what are they doing, you know, that you can aspire to do, right? So you can look up certain topics. You can come over here, study for your exam certifications and stuff like that, right? So if I just came over here and I said, hey, let me come say get trained, then I would say, hey, training by topic, right? And then you can do it by role. One of the number one things in the cloud, like when you say, hey, I'm gonna go to the cloud, is like learning what the different type of roles are. So we come over here, we say, hey, learn by role. Now you can start honing in like, okay, now I'm learning about the cloud, but what specific role? So I got a solutions architect, I got a cloud practitioner, developer, DevOps engineer, machine learning, artificial intelligence, or operation. Now, let me just go to, let's say operations, right? Well, I should have said, let's go DevOps engineer, right? Because that's something that people will learn. So here you have like, you know, a little guide that will help you step by step. You say beginning starts here, and then it will bring you to the AWS skill builder where you can come and learn about like certain courses and stuff when you sign in, right? So then it takes you and you can look at certain courses, right? So now that's just a way to go ahead and do it. And if you've never seen these websites, just explore around, and then, you know, you will kind of see where you can go off and do what you need to do. All right, so now let's go ahead and open up our console here, okay? And now it's taking us inside of our cloud environments. You can just go ahead and next your way through all this stuff, done, so on and so forth. All right, so now let's go through our steps. All right, so first thing we want to do is click on, is type config within the search bar here, right? And then the service we're going to be using is config. So we'll go ahead and do that. Config. All right, cool. Let me log in real quick. All right, so now we've come to config. All right, and then we go to get started. So we go to the get started tab. Okay, cool. All right, and then, all right, so these are the steps that we're going to go through. So we have record all current and future resource types supported in this region, right? Include globally recorded resource types, and then create AWS config service linked role. So within the cloud, you have different roles that you can use with different, we'll just say, attributes, permissions, and stuff like that, right? So we're going to create a service linked role for this actual service. So that way, when we use it, we will automatically be given access, right? So I'm just going to go off camera right here so you can see the whole screen. All right, so record all types, include globally resource types, include, all right, and then create a service link role. Okay, so now we're doing the same thing that we have here. Let's go ahead and click start. All right, then we say choose create bucket, right? So we're creating an Amazon S3 bucket. That's like your biggest storage within the cloud. And then it says S3 bucket name, and then config dash bucket, and then this. All right, so let's go to create bucket, and our bucket name has already been created. Now, this, as you see, this number here is different than this number. Don't worry about that. It's pretty much the same thing, so don't let that confuse you, right? And right here it even states, note that your bucket name is config dash bucket, and then there has been a random number associated with that, okay? All right, so let's go to the next step. Well, first of all, we got to click next here, okay? So we'll come back here, we'll click next. All right, good. Now, let's go to the next step. All right, so then we click on rules here. So we see we have a bunch of rules. All right, we need to separate them. There's actually 154 rules. So let me get rid of this. I don't need this anymore. That's 100. All right, so S3 dash default dash encryption. And you see that's right here. So you can kind of copy and paste. For some reason here with the game, it doesn't really allow me to copy and paste. I'm using Windows here, so it always says undefined. So if I just type in S3 dash, I think it was default, yep, S3 dash default encryption KMS, I believe that was it. Let me double tap, and double check on this other screen over here. Yep, encryption, KMS. Then we want to click next. So we'll go ahead and click next right here. All right, and then we'll come down. All right, so then we want to review to make sure that we have our config dash bucket and that random number, which we have it right here, okay? And then we want to expand the config rules. We only have one right here. So we can expand the config rules, and our config rules, S3 default encryption KMS, right? And we can go ahead and confirm that. Clicked on confirm. All right, now we're gonna click on rules, okay? Oh, still waiting for it to load here. Okay. So everything loaded. All right, compliance rules, and we're G to G, good to go. All right, cool. Now we're gonna click on rules. Okay. And then, let me see, go back here. So click on rules. If it appears close to the welcome to config box, go to the next step. All right, got it. So we have rules here. All right, and then let me see. So now we'll go to the next step. All right, and then on the dashboard, so we still have rules highlighted. This is AWS, follow the path, AWS, and then rules right here, okay? So review our rule right here, and how you want to review things. You can either click on it, or you can just go to the rule and just look it over. Let me bring this down just a tad. Okay, got you right there. No, that might be hard for y'all to see, so let me bring it back. Okay, got it. All right, cool. So now, all right, we reviewed that. Click on dashboard here. So we click on dashboard. Now we come back to the dashboard. Okay, so dashboard rules, review, got it. All right, review. So number one, so we have non-compliant rules and then 2 non-compliant resources. So here we have non-compliant rules and then 2 non-compliant resources here. The non-compliant rules by non-compliant resource count is right here. All right, cool. So click on S3 default encryption, right? So we're going to click on S3 default encryption rule. Okay. The concept is use the dashboard to see an overview of your resources, rules, and their compliance state. We clicked on it. Now, resources in scope. All right. In the resources in scope, review to see that your config dash bucket is currently non-compliant. Yep. And we see, you have to bring this down, but you see right here, we have our bucket is in the non-compliant status. All right, we're reviewing that. Now let's go to the S3 tab, right? So now we're clicking on S3. All right, and you can always highlight this and then it'll be up in this favorites tab right here. See, right there. All right, cool. So now let's go, we've clicked on S3. Click on your bucket that you have created, the config bucket right there, okay? So now you see we're inside of this config bucket. All right, so we clicked on that. Now we go to properties, okay? And then we find bucket versioning right here, okay? So now let's see what it wants us to do. So we clicked on properties. All right, then we scroll down to tags, and then default encryption, we want to edit this right here. So we go down to tags, default encryption, okay, and we want to edit this guy. We want to choose server-side encryption with AWS Key Management Service. Choose key from your key management service, and then we're going to choose the key that they have already created for us, right? So you would have to pre-create these keys. So we want to choose server-side encryption, okay, and then choose key, right? And then this is the key that they've already created for us. All right, so those are the steps. Let's go to the next step. Then scroll down, I see where it says save changes. Did they say click on? It just says scroll to the bottom. So specifying a bucket key reduces traffic from S3 to AWS KMS so that you can access AWS KMS encrypted object in S3 at a fraction of the previous cost. Okay. Now I did not see anything about save. Let me just read the steps. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and then click on save changes, and that is not shown. So there we go. So we'll scroll down to the bottom and click on save changes there. All right, and then now it's saying, now we want to go back to config. We didn't save it last time, so now we just go to the service. We can save it here in case you want to go back in the future. Back to the future, all right? Let me come back. All right, here we go. So now we typed on config. We're going to go back to the dashboard. Yep, we're on the dashboard right there. And then it says, hey, click on compliant resources. All right, so we click on, make sure it's not there. I don't have any compliant resources. Let me see. Because they have one. So dashboard, click on 2. In the compliance status under resources, click 1 compliant resource. I don't have any compliant resources. So now let me go back here. Let me go back to dashboard. Why do I not have a compliant resource? Because we should have already set that up. So let's go back to S3. Let's go back to the config bucket, go back to properties here. Yes, we set up the server-side encryption. And let's go back to edit real quick. Server-side encryption, enter key enable. Let me double check and go back to make sure that we did everything correct. Yep, clicked on properties, edit. So we went to server-side encryption, yes. Choose key from AMS, choose the key, and then saved, yes. So we did everything we were supposed to do. I don't know why we don't have any compliant resources here. So we'll just continue and see what's going on here. Because there is no refresh button. So compliant resources, I don't have any. Well, okay, now it's compliant. So I guess it takes a little time. Let me come off camera so you can see that. It takes a little time to reach compliant status, right? So just be aware of that going forward. Like if I went back to the dashboard now, okay, now you see we do have 1 compliant resource here. Okay, so it just takes a little time for it to reach the compliant status. All right, got it. So now we clicked on that. All right, so now it says click on rules, resources. Hold up, first go to resources, that's where we are. So now click on rules, okay. And when we come to our rules, we want to add a rule here. So we will add a rule, okay. And then now, let's see, add rule, required dash tags, and then choose required dash tags. So we want to add a rule here, okay. So we just come to required, and then dash tags, and that's our rule that we're looking for, okay. So make sure that you type that in properly so that will come up. Choose and then click on the next button. So the next button is off screen, but so you can't see it, but it's right here. So you just go to the lower right. Let me just come off so you can see it. So it's right there. I clicked on it on the bottom of the page, so you just click right there, okay. All right, so now got it. And then we want to review, right? So we have the configure tags, rule, that's it right there, required dash tags, check whether your resources have the tags you specify. This looks like a predefined rule. Scroll down to the bottom. Okay, then we go to resources. So here, scroll down to the bottom, we have resources right there. All right, so resources, and then resource category, we go to AWS resources. Resource category, AWS resources, okay. Resource type, multiple selected, and then choose AWS EC2 instance. Resource type, let's see if we got, oh no, it's not there. Let me see. AWS resources, resource type, EC2. Oh, let me see this real quick. So choose AWS resources, and then 3, choose AWS EC2 instance. All right here. So there we go. So, all right, multiple selected, and then AWS EC2 instance. That's what we're looking for. Then we want to scroll down to the bottom, and then we're going to have to type in all this stuff. This is like, what the flip, yo. All right, cool. So now we have a bunch of key value pairs for these tags, and now we're going to have to type them all in. So let's start with the first one, cost center. Yep, that's there. For tag 2, we want to put environment. So you can copy and paste all this stuff. I'm going to have to type it out. Okay, tag 2 is environment. For tag 3, product. Let me see, I'm going to have to copy and paste this stuff, but I can do it a different way. Just copy and paste it to a text editor or a Word document or something like that. So now just let me look up Notepad off screen. There we go. And then I'm just typing. I just pulled up just a Notepad real quick. All right, so prod queue staging, and then now let me copy and paste this over. All right, cool. Prod queue staging, prod queue staging. All right, now let me come to, we got audit level here for tag 4. So now let me copy and paste that. Okay, and then put that in tag 4, audit level. What else we got here? For tag 5, PII, normal, and PCI. So PII, personal identifiable information. PCI, I forget what PCI stands for, but it got something to do with like the credit card industry or something of that nature, right? So we'll copy and paste that. Then for tag number 6, we got name. I can type that real fast. Tag number 6, we got name. For tag number 7, we got owner. I can type that out real fast. Owner. Okay. And then scroll down to the bottom of the page and then go to the next step. Okay, good. So now let's scroll down to the bottom and then go to the next step here. Okay. We've entered all the tags in, click next, and then we want to save. So now we see we have the tags that we were meant to set, right? The key value pair. Okay, got it. So now we'll go ahead and save that. Let's click on this next step. Go back to our dashboard. We're still within the AWS Config service. So we'll go back to our dashboard here. All right. And let's click on next. All right, so now we want to review. So it says review the non-compliant resources, right? You got resource tags and you got S3 default encryption KMS. So click on required tags, right? Non-compliant resources, view all non-compliant resources. Oh, let me go back here. Let me go back to dashboard. Make sure I'm in the right place. Oh, got it. So it was on the left-hand side, but I don't, on mine it's not showing on the left-hand side here. So let me see, click on required tags. All right, once we click on required tags, then we go to resources in scope and then look at the EC2 instance. And all. So I do not have an EC2 instance here. So note that the EC2 instance ID, which is non-compliant, but I do not have. So maybe it might be a situation where it takes time to come up again. So now let's sit and wait and see if we're in that same boat. So let's go back. Let me look. Non-compliant rules by non-compliant resource count. Okay, hold up. So now let me come back up here. All right, so now it's come down here. So now it's in non-compliant rules by non-compliant resource count. Well, that's the same place I was just at. Let me double check. So here, non-compliant rules by, you got required dash tags, right? So view all non-compliant rules. So we're still waiting on that rule to pop up, right? Because we still don't have, okay, here we go. So now that has popped up. So now let's go back to our dashboard. Let's get rid of this. And just waiting for that to pop up. See, we got that rule, required tags, view non-compliant rules. What? Let me see, compliant, all. See what's happening. Okay, so now we got required tags. Now let's see if it brings us to the same place, which it does, I believe. So now we come down to resources in scope. And then we say, okay, let's look at all. Man, so maybe I gotta see, man, like why am I not seeing an instance here? Why am I not seeing an instance? Because I seen nothing about create an instance here. I did all the appropriate tags. Let's go check and see if there is an actual instance running. So we have an instance running, and it's this web server here. Okay, so going back to our config panel, right? I don't know why that we're not seeing, maybe because it's not tagged properly. But so now let's go and look at that. So we got scroll down, resources in scope, non-compliant, right? So for our, going to our rules here, let me go back to AWS Config. Let me get rid of this dashboard. See, it's not popping up here. That's the issue, right? So if I just said, hey, view all non-compliant rules, as y'all can see, why is this? Okay, this one has not been considered. Let me see something. Resources, resource category, multiple selected. It has all the tags that it needs, and we're saving it. So I don't know why this rule here is non-compliant, or why it's not non-compliant. I'm not exactly sure, but let's see if we can proceed on, right? So now, here we go. So we have, it says review this. Now go to EC2, click on instances, and then choose this web server. Then click on tags, right? Click manage tags, go to the next step. Tags are not automatically assigned to your resources. You can edit tag key values, and you can remove tags from the resource at any time. So it's probably not there because it's not tagged. Okay, yes. So we have to add the tags. That's why we can't see it. Okay, got it. So we'll go to this EC2 instance. We'll go to the one that's running here. We come here, we go over to tags, right? And these are the available tags, but as you can see, they're not the ones that we put into the actual rule. So now we need to add these tags, right? And then we'll just come over here and add cost center and then type in 1337 for the value, right? So we'll type in cost center and then 1337 for the value. With this situation, it might be quicker if I just type them out. So I'm just going to type them. So we got audit level, and then we have normal, right? So we say audit and then level. All right. And then here we have normal. Okay. Then here we have environment, and then we have QA, quality assurance. So now we'll type in environment. And then here, oh, did I spell that correctly? Environment, I don't think so. Let me see. Yep, I forgot that N. Let me double tap, bro. Environment. Yep. All right, and then it's QA for the tag. So QA. All right, cool. Then we come here, and then we have an owner, and then the owner's name is Ryan. So we add tag. So we got owner, and then the owner's name is Ryan. Okay, cool. So those are our tags, and then we'll click save right there. All right, cool. So now we'll come down. Then we'll go back to AWS Config. We have rules. Then we'll choose required tag right here. Then we'll click on actions, and then we'll say reevaluate. All right, so let's say we go to AWS Config. We go to rules. Then we want to choose required tags. Then we want to come to actions, and then we want to reevaluate. So reevaluate, now that we've added the tags, right? It should make this either compliant or non-compliant. All right. And then we just kind of have to, let's see, reevaluate, choose that, go to the next step. All right. And then click on the refresh button. And then when it runs the actual rule, then it's going to come with the compliance status, because now the rules have been added to that resource. Okay. So we just have to click on the refresh button a few times while we're waiting on that, right? So you have non-compliant. Please do me a favor, go ahead and click like on the video, right? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to see more content in the future. And then also, you know, go ahead and share the video with others so that other people can learn at the same time. All right, got it. So now we're just waiting on that to become compliant. So click in the circle to view detailed buttons to refresh. In the rules section, review to see that the required tags rule status has changed to compliant. The rule might take a few minutes to become compliant, then go to the next step. So it's just running through all of the processes right now. Still have rules. It's still working because you can't, let me see. Yeah. Still non-compliant, man. So it might take a few minutes. So we'll just continue to click and refresh until we actually get compliance here with this actual rule. Okay, hey, we're back, and now you see that this is compliant. So let me tell you about the mistake that I made, just so you can see exactly what I did. So within the rules, right, I did not pay attention, and I had these names in the wrong place. So if that same mistake happens to you, make sure that you go back to step 24, right? And then make sure that the tag, if you've been following along, I apologize, I'm sorry, all right? Es tut mir leid, that's I am sorry in German, right? So basically what you do is make sure that each tag actually matches up. So where it says tag to key, that's environment, tag to value, product staging. I had these in the wrong place. So that's why my rule was not being compliant, okay? So now we can go ahead and move on. Let's go back to where we come to the compliant rule. All right, got it. So now we're back at step 36. All right, bam, congratulations. Now we can go to the last step, which is the do-it-yourself section. All right, so we need to add an additional rule to verify that the S3 bucket have versioning enabled, okay? Enable versioning on the S3 bucket config.bucket. Okay, so add an additional rule to verify that your S3 bucket have versioning enabled. So let's go to our rule. Let's add a rule. Add manage rule, and I think it was S3 dash, what was the name of the rule? Versioning. There we go. S3 version lifecycle policy check. Hold up now. I don't think this should be S3 bucket dash versioning. There we go. So S3 bucket versioning enabled. That's what we're looking for, okay? So that's the rule that we're trying to add here. Resources is going to be S3 bucket. I don't think I need any key value pairs, so I should just be able to save that. And that's my rule, S3 versioning enabled. Okay, got it. So now I need to go to my actual S3 bucket, config.bucket here. So we'll come here, we'll go to properties, bucket versioning right here. And you see bucket versioning is disabled. So now we will just enable this, and then we will save changes. All right, so this is the name of my bucket. I think it's looking for a name, not a, yep, just a bucket name. And then the rule that you enabled. So now we'll go back and get the name of that actual rule. We'll come over here to rules, all rules, and then we'll say, hey, S3 bucket enabled. I don't know if we need to do the evaluation on it, or we'll just go ahead and just copy the rule and make sure that that's good to go. And we'll validate this. All right, and then it says, hey, you did it. Both the AWS Config rule and the Amazon S3 bucket are configured correctly. Now return to the city and give the customer the great news. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Thank you so much. Select your reward. Here's our reward. Look like got like a hot air balloon or something right there next to it. All right, cool. All right, so hey, we've completed this exercise, right? So be very, very careful, right? Very cognizant. As you can see, I messed up on the tags, and that's what took me a long time to be able to see, like, where did I actually mess up? And when I went in back and looked at the tags, I see that I had the tags in the wrong place, all right? So there's mistakes. It happens, you know. I never rehearse these videos. I just actually do them, right? So, you know, I made mistakes. It was probably like about maybe about 5 to 7 minutes it took me to figure that out. So I'll probably go back and edit that out. But other than that, yeah, so that's pretty much it. So thank you all for joining. And I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. All right. Because we are about I think we're about 2 videos away from, let me see, keep going, complete 4 more. Wow. So 4 more assignments and then we're able to claim this actual badge right here. So that's cool. All right. So we'll just keep knocking them out. It says 4, but I only have 2 right here. So I don't know. But hey, we'll just keep on knocking them out and then, so just stay tuned. All right. Peace. See y'all later. All right.